The migrant crisis has affected two cities more than any other ones that I've covered. New York City and Chicago. Not saying that Boston or other parts of Texas have not been affected, but really we get these two economies, number 1 and 3, Chicago number 3, New York number 1, as most of the notoriety for the migrant crisis. Now in both cities, there are people looking for work. Mayor Eric Adams was heavily criticized when he wanted this.
You spoke earlier about the idea of having these migrants work in New York and giving them an opportunity to work. Have you ever thought of just doing it on your own at this point?
We would love to. Trust me, I've turned over every legal stone to see how we could go about doing it. But if we do it, we could expose ourselves to violating federal laws as well as the city being sanctioned. And would you believe I cannot even allow migrants to volunteer and give them a stipend? If I wanted them just to clean up and the areas where they are staying, that's not allowed to do. When you think about this, this strikes at the heart of who we are as a country. All of our immigrants that have come to this city, all of us in this country, we had the authorization to work and earn our rights to be here. And that's all the migrants and asylum seekers are asking for.
That's right. Eric Adams wanted to put these migrants to work. People were pissed off about it. But what about Brandon Johnson?
Chicago's mayor is joining local activists calling on President Biden to allow work permits for undocumented residents. Today, Mayor Brandon Johnson hosted this roundtable discussion with business and community leaders from across the city. The group is pushing the federal government to extend legal permits to undocumented workers who have worked and paid taxes here for decades. Leaders say work permits would ensure fair wages and benefits and allow workers the dignity they deserve.
I don't think people realize that people can't even get a bank account, can't have a savings account, a checking account, because they are undocumented. So work permits for all is an opportunity to right that wrong, to have an equitable approach as we decide who is worthy and who is not.
Advocates say Illinois is home to 480,000 long-term undocumented residents.
Brandon Johnson wants to put them to work too. But wait. There's a different situation going on in Chicago with work permits for migrants than in New York City. Because in Chicago, you have a lot of undocumented workers that have been living in the city for 20 plus years. Here's a story of a person right now.
My parents have also been living undocumented for the past 22 years.
A large group of community leaders joined Mayor Brandon Johnson in an effort to secure legal work permits for nearly 500,000 undocumented Chicago residents. Mariana Gutierrez has been undocumented since coming to the U.S. with her parents at 7 months old.
So I'm urging President Biden to use his executive power and grant my parents, and everyone else in our community work permits in order for us to work and have good paying jobs.
That's right. The lady's been in Chicago for 20 plus years, has never gotten a work permit. So what is the problem right now in Chicago? So the undocumented migrants who have been in the city of Chicago for many years do not want to be skipped over as these new migrants who have just come to the country get their work permits, which is a different situation than what we see in New York City. This becomes a problem. It's also becoming a problem for aldermen. Check out this Alderman Lopez.
Well, I think one of the things that we have to be clear about is the fact that we have two different categories that we're discussing. We have the asylum seekers who are automatically going to get social security numbers and work permits eventually. And then we have those undocumented individuals that have already been in our cities who have been waiting for a pathway forward. I believe that if we are going to have a true conversation, that we don't need to conflate the two, because it's very disrespectful and insulting to those communities that have been waiting for a pathway forward to legitimize their residency, who are now being leapfrogged by the asylum seekers.
The asylum seekers, you're telling me that they are going to get social security numbers, they are going to get work permits eventually? Is that the case?
Right now, we are seeing at least 2,000 migrant asylum seekers in the city of Chicago alone who have gotten both social security numbers as well as work permits for their stay until their merit hearing.
Okay,
so we know that the administration is working to provide that for them.
But do you approve of that? They are illegals, not got their court hearing yet, but they can work. Do you approve of that?
No, I disagree with the fact that Secretary Mayorkas and President Biden allowed for the manipulation of our asylum process to bring us to this point. I think that we know flat out that wanting work, which is the number one reason a vast majority of these individuals are here, is not grounds for asylum in the United States. And we're just perpetuating the inevitable that they're all going to be found as not having merit to be here, and then expect them to fully, at some point, self-deport, which we have seen historically never happens. Never happens. Never happens.
Oh yeah, Alderman Lopez does not like Mayor Brandon Johnson. And you see, the situation is very deep. They also have different positions on the Israel-Palestinian war. That's one thing. But the situation is this. The alderman is concerned that newer migrants are going to get work permits versus those people who have been waiting for them for the whole time. Now, let's take it back to the African-American perspective. I want to talk about Michael Bay. He was a brother that roasted up the mayor just a few weeks ago. And he had this to say.
Well, I know you people don't know what's going on to the extent with this migrant and this immigration stuff. Because if y'all so much saying that Texas doing this and Texas doing that, why everybody college parked outside them shelters that's employees, their license plates have Texas on there.
Yeah, he talked about the migrant workers coming into Chicago with Texas license plates. Why can't he get a job? He went to the city looking for help as a married black man that's homeless. Now, the African-American perspective on this is going to be different. Alderman Lopez wants what Brandon Johnson wants. Why? Because African-Americans are citizens of America. They don't want to hear, well, you undocumented workers get a work permit. No, they want the work permit. Where are the jobs for them? Because we know 1 out of every 4 black people or black children in Chicago, according to the mayor, are going to be most likely homeless. So black Chicago, which Chicago is very black, what about what they're going to get? After all taxpayers in Chicago, regardless of race, are paying for the migrants. And Chicago is a black dominated city, at least half of it, right? So who's paying for the migrants? African Americans are paying for it. So the undocumented migrants who are there, who's helped fund them? African Americans. So wait a minute. So then who should be getting priority here? Say it with me. African Americans. African Americans. Or Americans in general, but it's a black channel, so it's African Americans. That's the issue. African Americans are still going to be overlooked. And that's something that Mayor Brandon Johnson isn't talking about. And that's something Lopez is not talking about. But with all due respect to Alderman Lopez, he don't need to talk about that because that's not his concern. His concern, the people in his constituency, which are largely Latinos. See, it's not his job to do that. But Brandon Johnson was getting a lot of help from the black. And this is why Cata Trust end up saying this.
Brandon Johnson was a lesson for not just myself, but should be a lesson for black folks. And I say this now, you know, we have a tendency to vote for people because they look like us. We vote for people because they're Democrats. And, you know, traditionally, black people always support Democrats. And so we kind of go along with that. And one of the things that happened with Brandon Johnson was he was really a lesson to me and probably to other blacks that we can't just be out here voting for people because they look like us. And we definitely can't be supporting people just because they're Democrats, because Brandon Johnson, as well as President Biden, as well as our Governor Pritzker, are showing us what the Democratic Party really feels about black people.
That's right. Just because they're black don't mean they're good. And I hope everybody knows that. Brandon Johnson ran on a platform, you know, getting black Chicago to vote for him. But the whole time he's doing everything but what he's supposed to be doing for his group. I don't even give a damn if it's Democrat or Republican or not. The fact is the guy is not doing what he was supposed to do. And it looks bad now. So it looks like he's fighting to give everybody a work permit, whether they just got there yesterday or if they're undocumented. And it looks like he's not looking to give African Americans anything, which is crazy because that's who voted you in. But guys, what do you think? It's your boy, New Jackson, back at it again. Another episode of Fair Use. I'm out.